Hi, this is Ronda Degaust with LifePotentialDevelopments.com, international NLP trainer, coach, columnist, and author of How to Heal from Years of Criticism, Insults, Abuse, and Rejection. Welcome to this month's Success Strategies with the Experts. Today's expert is Pat Mazor. Pat Mazor is an author and is the creator of the Change Your Belief, Change Your Life audio programs. Over the 2 years investigation in research and working with volunteers, Pat developed an incredible formula that helps people change their limiting beliefs to powerful, self-motivating beliefs for living the lives they most want. Welcome, Pat.
Thanks, Ronda. Glad to be here.
It's very nice to have you back. So, Pat, I know you focus on helping people change their beliefs, and when they do that, they change their lives. So
Right.
How did you come up with this idea?
Well, it sort of started back in 2006. I knew a person then that had some very unusual and very unrealistic beliefs and belief systems. She believed that people actually invested time and energy just trying to figure out how they could cause her hurt and pain. And in listening to her, I finally said, this just doesn't work, but I'm really curious as to how you came to believe this. Okay, well, she told me how she did. And I said, do you not understand or see that this just doesn't make a lot of sense? And she said, no, I do see how it makes sense, and this is what people do to me. There wasn't a lot I could do with her, obviously. But that got me thinking. And it sort of planted a seed in the back of my mind regarding beliefs and belief systems. And later on, when I wanted to start changing some of my beliefs to have a better life, and I used things like Silva and NLP to get there, that was what sort of launched it. I kept thinking back on her and that she had created this really very unhappy life with these terribly erroneous beliefs. That was very literally the start of this whole thing.
So at that time you were considering doing a business or anything. So how did you start creating the programs for other people?
Well, what happened was I created my own, and I used a combination of things. I used the formula out of my training as a life coach, which is what they call a personalized vision statement, which is recorded and you listen to it. And then I added to that Silva's concept of using a binaural wave pattern, because that causes relaxation, puts you into kind of an alpha state and that kind of thing. And then I combined with that what I think is the most key element of all, which is NLP language patterns, which kind of comes from Milton method. In fact, there's so much Milton Erickson in everything that I'm doing, really, when you think about it. But using those language patterns, then I figured out, how do I now talk to the subconscious mind? How do I get it to listen? How do I get it to say, okay, yeah, this belief really is not serving us. What do we do to change that? And that was how it got started for me. A friend of mine then came to me, and we were talking about what it was doing for me, and he said, hey, I'd like to lose weight. Do you have one for that? And I said, I think I can work you up something. That is very literally how it all got then moving to other people.
So when you mentioned the Milton patterns, of course, for the listeners, the Milton patterns are basically language patterns to help sort of bypass the conscious mind to get to the unconscious mind, so the person is actually getting the information unconsciously so that it becomes more ingrained.
Right, exactly.
And he was the expert at doing that, so you're incorporating that. You're incorporating that in your program.
Master.
Yeah, the master of language patterns. And of course, he's helped over 30,000 people in his career that basically came to him that nobody else could help, because he knew how to build rapport, of course, with people, which is all part of NLP, but also how to build a rapport with the unconscious mind and how to make that connection so that he could change things at an unconscious level, so not just consciously. So that's a great strategy to actually incorporate in your programs. I know you conducted a lot of research with volunteers to get your formula, as you call it, right. What strategy did you use to make your formula of your audio program so successful, so effective?
Well, it was piecing together the various components. For example, that I use binaural patterns, which, as I said, I learned in Silva, because that will quiet the conscious mind and it'll open that doorway to the subconscious mind. And then also, I created very straightforward kinds of language patterns from NLP that would very softly approach the subconscious. It wouldn't come head to head, because as you know, as we both know, you go head-to-head with the subconscious, you're going to lose because it'll stick its feet in the sand and it just will not listen to what you're saying to it. Then the other thing that I added to it, which I think really is one of the big success points with it, is that I cover all the different reference systems. In other words, every program I create will cover what will you see differently, what will you hear differently, what will you feel differently, and focuses on that idea to make sure that whatever the person's primary reference system is, that we're hitting that they're getting a payoff from it. So it's all of those things all thrown in together that makes it work.
So when you're talking about the different representational systems, of course in NLP we say visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So you're making sure, especially when you're doing your general, I'm assuming when you're doing your more general programs that people could buy from you, that it would hit all of those representational systems.
Absolutely.
Depending on which one it is, it'll still work. Because
Yes.
each person is unique, but you generalized it enough that would fit in all of those representational systems.
Right, and one of the things that I've noticed, Rhonda, that is absent from groups that don't use NLP material or don't understand the representational systems is that a lot of therapists, counselors, coaches will coach from their representational system, not necessarily the client's.
Right.
And I don't know with any given client, even with some of my personalized programs, what their primary system is. If I hit all three, I'm guaranteed to definitely hit it somewhere along the line, and that's very critical to the success of it.
Yes, that actually, that kind of question sort of came up this week in my personal life. We were at dance classes, and there was a counselor there, and he was saying how about he works with all these different people, and one of my friends had said, well, she's like this, she does, Rhonda's like, get things done, get things done, get things done, she's so fast, and because I'm fairly visual, and she said that's how she is in her business, but when she's on her, not in business, she can be really laid back. And I said, well, actually, I wanted to explain that when depending on who I'm working with, will depend on how I talk with them.
Right.
Because he was a counselor and he was interested a little bit about what we do. And I said, well, for instance, if I talk to somebody that's extremely visual, then yeah, I'm going to be bing, 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 let's get it done kind of thing.
Right.
But if I'm talking with somebody, say from the Caribbean, that may be more kinesthetic, and they're very soft and gentle and they're methodical and they think and they have to feel first, I'm going to slow down and process the coaching session in a completely different way.
Sure.
So that just fits perfectly with what you're saying about how you created your programs, because you know that when you're working with people, if you're not in their representational system, then the chances of them actually getting what it is that you're trying to get across isn't going to happen.
No, it really won't.
So that was great. I just wanted to put that in the personal thing when you're just chatting with people and how people perceive you, and they think that's how you are all the time, but it's not necessarily in a work context. It can't be that way. You have to, if you're coaching somebody or you're creating programs like you do, it has to be with everybody's representational system or specifically for that particular client.
Right, exactly.
So have you had any really spectacular results with your clients for your programs?
I've had a few. The one that I look at most often, I had a client who was a binger. And I find this interesting because I know you did an article on binging this last week.
I just did the video on it, yep.
Okay. So she was a binger. She would literally go to a fast food place and buy $40 worth of fast food and then eat it over the next 3 hours. And, we had some long sessions together. We did a lot of talking about my trying to get an answer to the question, where do you suppose you learned this? Where do you suppose you came up with believing you have to live this way? And we nailed it after a while. It was some very unkind comments she had heard growing up. The primary being, you can't help it, you're going to be fat. That's the way it is. That's going to be your life, so just accept it. And she incorporated that and internalized that, and it became a belief. She'd been to counselors, she'd been to therapists, she'd been to weight groups, she'd been to just about everything. And she said, I have tried everything, nothing has worked. I have nothing to lose by trying your program, and I really like to try it. And I said, that'd be great, because I think we can do something here. It took quite a while to script the program. That one did not come easily or quickly, and I had to think very carefully how to approach the subconscious. She began listening. She got some real strong resistance right off the bat, a lot of fear, a lot of anger. She would put the program away and not listen, then she'd come back to it. About 1 week into it, she finally, the resistance, the fear, and all those things went away, and she started seeing some results. The really interesting thing is she kind of dropped off my radar for a while, and then she came back up at about the 9-week point. And of course, as I tell everybody, you've got to listen for 90 days. It won't work if you don't. Came back up, and she said, I'm sorry I haven't been in touch with you. I wanted to let you know that I have not had a binging episode now in 9 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I get choked up when I think about my clients.
Yeah, well, just...
2 weeks ago, she started going to the gym with her brother. She goes 3 days a week. She has taken off weight. She looks terrific. The thing she said that was a huge change in her life, not the binging, was that she wanted to eliminate the chaos in her life. She called up her parents and said, I really need some help. My apartment is just a total disaster area. I need some help getting it organized. Would you come help me? And they said, sure. So her whole life has now come into order. The binging has stopped. She's eating healthy. She's exercising. That for me has been one of my huge successes.
Well, something that people may not understand is that when you change a belief, like especially something that has been so deeply rooted, there's where the resistance would come, because it's like you're changing. Just to understand that the resistance is more, and the fear is, they've been so stuck in this thought process for so long. When you start taking them out of their comfort zone with the listening, then sometimes a little fear and resistance comes in because it's a little uncomfortable, because they're not used to it. They're not used to the change. And then once they sort of get over that hump and this starts to happen, climbing the hill, then it makes it a little easier. So you were saying that, it takes 90 days. So you talked about 3 weeks, your different point saying, so this is not like a quick fix program. This is a little bit over time. So I think that what would make it really successful is that it's sort of chipping away at that belief in a comfortable way, because it does have a little resistance. People are afraid to change their beliefs. Like, who am I now if I'm not a binge eater?
Right.
She identified herself, not only is that a belief, that becomes her identity, and I'm always going to be fat. Well, that's a big, huge belief to carry around, literally heavy weight for a long time, and to be able to let go of that so that she could actually start shedding the pounds over time. Going to the gym is a new habit. Once you change your belief, then your behaviors, this is the key part, start to support your new beliefs. And what was happening with your client is that her old belief was so strong, her behaviors had to support that too. That's why she bought the $40 of junk food and ate it in 3 hours, because if she has a belief you're always going to be fat, well, the only way to stay fat is to overeat and eat junk food and take in more every day than you burn off.
Right.
You can't lose weight if you're taking in less calories than you burn off. That's how you lose weight. So when you helped her change that belief system, therefore her behaviors changed as well, which is really key.
It is. And the thing that I point out with clients is that it is not a quick fix. You have to listen to this program once a day for 90 days. I've had people drop off at the 1 month point saying, I've got it. And of course, within 2 weeks, they're right back to their old behaviors again. The one thing that I did discover is if you'll just go back to listening, you can still count that first however many days. That it just seems to be a total thing that you have to live up with rather than, oh my gosh, I missed 4 days, I've got to start all over. It's not. But it seems like once the subconscious has been exposed to it 90 times that it finally catches it. And it says, okay, I can change this. We don't have to stay stuck in that old belief anymore.
Well, that was the reason why you did your 2 years of research, right? And with the volunteers and stuff, so that you could test what's working, what's not working, so that you can come up with a successful strategy plan in your program to know that, okay, you do this for 90 days. Now, some people might do it for 30 and listen for 90 days, but in 30 days it's in there. Some people will do that, but what's the harm in continuing? So
it's 15 minutes of the day. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal, and any kind of habit, I believe that any kind of habit that you or anything you want to change, it has to be repetitive. So it becomes part of you.
Right. Part of your new you.
Yeah, the new you. So what happens, that's actually what I did in the binge thing that you were talking about, the binge thing video I did. I actually put a little strategy in there. It's called the naturally slim pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually touches on actually how we formulate and how we think as human beings to change that, because that's what you're doing. This lady started to do the behaviors of a naturally slim person.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody's naturally slim and eating junk food, $40
Right.
of junk food. You're just not slim. There's no such thing as being naturally slim. You can be naturally small framed like I am, but you're not naturally slim. It's what are those behaviors, what are those strategies that people use that's successful, and when you can change that at the unconscious level, then you can be more successful.
Right. I agree.
So your actually little success strategy interview today works perfectly with my video. How coincidental is that?
Just being on the same wavelength.
We seem to be. So what happens if when somebody wants the program just for them, like when they wanted it more specialized?
I do that also. That's not the $19.95 price, because obviously I'm going to invest 3 to 5 hours with a client. But what I'm doing right now is I offer. First, I want to get together with a client for about a half hour before we do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get a feel for what is the belief. I want to get a feel for, are they willing to be committed to this and work at the full 90 days? And I want them to have some ideas about what they're going to be going through. If we do well in that 30 minutes, which I don't charge for that, it's kind of like an initial consultation, then we'll set up a time to get together for an hour, sometimes a little more, and we will talk about their belief in great detail. And I will begin to formulate how I'm going to script the program from there. At that point, then, once I have that information, I can begin to script the program, I can create it, I can produce it, and I will send it to them by email.
Excellent.
And then we try to do a couple follow-ups throughout the course of the 90 days just to make sure they're on track.
So that sounds like a pretty good deal.
I think so.
So what happens if a program doesn't work? Like, what happens then?
Well, with any client, whether it's a pre-recorded program or it's a personalized program, if they really don't feel like it's doing them any good, and they tell me before the first 30 days are up, I'll refund their price, no questions asked.
So you not only are you sharing your success strategy for your program, Pat, you're also sharing a little success strategy for your business with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Sure. And I want, even if it doesn't work, and it doesn't happen very often, but it does, I don't want people to go away saying the guy ripped me off.
Right.
I want them to be able to go away and say, it didn't work, but he gave me my money back, so I've got no complaints.
Yeah, well, we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee too, so it's we don't necessarily, some people may actually get benefit out of it, but then still change their mind. That's okay. But think it's good business, and that's a strategy that you're incorporating into your business as well, because people like when they buy products, especially when they buy things online, it's nice to have that little bit of security, hey, am I buying this? What is this all about? Is this for me? And giving their money back if it isn't for them is a good strategy.
I think so.
So how can our listeners find more about your Change Your Belief, Change Your Life audio programs?
Best way is just go to our website, which is www.CYBCYL, Change Your Beliefs, Change Your Life.com. And it's just the 6 letters, CYBCYL.
So to check out Pat's website, go to www.CYBCYL.com.
That's it.
So thanks very much for joining me, Pat, and once again for sharing your wonderful success strategies with our listeners.
My pleasure. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Thank you so much.
Okay.